it's very much a transitional period in time. It's going from really from the Musketeers, that sort of a thing, and to the Louis XIV, the very strong. So it's this real in-between changing period. It's one of the first times in history when things are changing a lot more rapidly, due largely to travel being more available to people, trade between countries, and so forth. There was a lot of nationality and pride, patriotism, and especially in France, there was a lot of opulence, of decadence. They had gone from a very, very rigid period where they were wearing hoops for the first time underneath of their dresses. When Catherine of Aragon married Henry VIII, that was his first wife, she brought with her something called a Spanish farthingale, and it was a conical shaped undergarment made of cane hoops. This became all the rage, and you had this whole cone and dome thing going on. But eventually that softened, and it got rounder, and to the point where it got so broad that the first hoop actually came out here, and they had what was called a drum farthingale, because it literally looked like a woman was inside of a drum. Her skirts came straight out. It was sort of the forerunner to the paniers of Marie Antoinette and so forth. But in the meantime, the prime you're talking about is a transition between the two. The drum farthingale gets a bum roll put over top of it, which is literally like a stuffed sausage that goes around a woman's waist to smooth out that shape. You've got a lot of ruffs, a lot of lace going on at the neck. Excuse me. They actually had ruffs that went out quite far. They were called cartwheel ruffs because it looked literally like you had a cart wheel around your neck. These were made out of sometimes 2, 3, 4 different types of lace to get the desired look. This all starts to fall and gets a little droopy. It gets softer. You have the falling bands of the collars coming down. Men in particular, it's a really interesting time. This is as close, with the exception of things like kilts and so forth, this is as close as a man has gotten to wearing a skirt in history. Their breeches, they were going into what was called a petticoat breech. It was so full and filled with ruffles that it literally looked like the men were wearing petticoats. Bows on the shoes, roses, fabric that was ruched to form a rosette was on the front of a man's shoe. Boots came quite high and were turned back down, and they even wore lace inside them that fell back out over top the boot tops called boot hose. Ribbons, bangles, beads, baubles, you name it, the men had it all over. Steinkirks and cravats and lots of lace at their cuffs. The men were wearing wigs, periwigs, which were big and full.